I tried to speak, to ask what was happening, but no words came out. Then suddenly the noise faded. The lights dimmed, and I was gone. There was no tunnel, no bright light. At least not right away. Just a sudden absence of sensation, as if I had been pulled out of my own body and dropped into a space where time and gravity no longer existed. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but when I finally became aware again, I wasn't in the ambulance anymore. I wasn't anywhere I recognized. I was floating above a hospital room, watching doctors and nurses scramble around a body on the bed below me. My body. I saw them performing CPR, shouting orders, rushing to stabilize me. I felt no pain, no fear, just confusion. What was happening? Why was I watching myself? I reached out instinctively, trying to touch one of the nurses, but my hand passed through her like mist. Panic surged through me. This wasn't normal. This wasn't possible. And yet it was real. I was dead, and I had no idea what came next. The shock of awareness. At first, I couldn't process what I was seeing. There I was, my body, lying motionless on the hospital bed, surrounded by frantic doctors and nurses. Their voices were muffled, distant, as if I was hearing them through thick layers of water. I tried to call out, to tell them I was still here, but no sound came. I waved my arms, reached toward them, but they didn't react. It was like I was invisible, untouchable. Then the realization hit me like a wave. I'm not in my body anymore. The thought sent a shiver through me, though I had no physical form to feel it. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't imagining this. I was truly separated from my body, watching the scene unfold from above. Fear gripped me, sharp and cold. How did this happen? Was I dead? Was this what death felt like? I looked down at my hands, translucent, glowing faintly, and panic swelled inside me. I turned my gaze back to the hospital bed, watching as they continued their desperate attempts to bring me back. One nurse pressed down on my chest, rhythmically pushing against my ribs. Another shouted numbers I didn't understand. I wanted to scream, to plead with them to stop hurting my body, but I was powerless. I was trapped in a state I couldn't comprehend. Confusion warred with fear. I had never believed in ghosts or spirits, and yet here I was, a spirit detached from my physical self. I tried to make sense of it, to rationalize what was happening, but nothing fit. Was this some kind of coma? An out-of-body experience? Or was this really death? As I hovered there, unable to move or communicate, another thought struck me. One that chilled me deeper than the first. If I'm dead, then where am I going next? The arrival of angels. Just as the weight of my situation threatened to crush me, everything changed. A presence entered the room. Not physically, not in any way I could explain, but I felt it immediately. It was like a shift in the air, a quiet yet undeniable force that settled over me like warm sunlight after a storm. The chaos of the hospital faded into the background, and my attention was drawn upward. They appeared suddenly, though I hadn't seen them arrive. 3 figures stood near the foot of my body, radiating a light so pure it wasn't blinding, but instead illuminated everything around them. They weren't human, not in the way we understand flesh and bone, but they had form. Tall, graceful, and utterly unlike anything I had imagined angels to be. They weren't soft or delicate. They were powerful, regal, and completely at peace. One of them turned toward me, and in that moment, I understood something profound. They had been there all along. They had watched me fall, had seen my body fail, had witnessed the frantic efforts of the medical team below. But they had waited. Now their focus was fully on me. I should have been terrified. After all, I had no idea what was about to happen. But instead, I felt calm. Not because I understood what was going on, but because their presence carried something I had never known before: absolute safety. It wasn't the kind of safety that comes from knowing you're protected. It was deeper than that. It was the assurance that I was exactly where I needed to be. One of the angels stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice wasn't loud, yet it resonated through me like a melody I had always known but never heard. He didn't use words in the way humans do. He simply conveyed meaning, and I understood him instantly. "You are safe." That was all he said, but it was enough. In that moment, I knew I wasn't alone. These beings weren't here to judge me, weren't here to punish me. They were here because they always were. Every soul that departs this world is met by them. Whether we believe in them or not, whether we acknowledge their existence or ignore it, they are there. I looked down once more at my body, still lying motionless on the bed, and then back at the angels. I didn't know what came next, but for the first time since I had left my body, I wasn't afraid. The truth revealed. The angel's voice had calmed me, but it also stirred something deeper. An awareness that I wasn't just being guided. I was being shown something. The three angels stood in a perfect triangle around me, their radiant presence filling the space with warmth and clarity. One of them extended a hand, not physically, but in a way that pulled my consciousness forward, as if drawing me toward something unseen. Suddenly, I was no longer hovering above the hospital room. Instead, I was standing in a place that defied description. It wasn't a physical location, yet I could feel its presence. Time had no grip here. Space had no boundaries. And yet, everything felt perfectly ordered, as if I had stepped into the very fabric of truth itself. The angel who had spoken before looked directly at me, and once again, I heard his voice. Not in my ears, but in my soul. Grace, let us show you your life. In an instant, scenes unfolded before me, vivid and unfiltered. I saw moments from my childhood, small choices, forgotten conversations, decisions I had long dismissed as insignificant. I saw the times I had chosen comfort over compassion, pride over humility, selfishness over love. I saw the people I had hurt, knowingly or unknowingly, and the opportunities one had ignored, chances to give, to serve, to seek something greater than myself. It wasn't a punishment. There was no condemnation, no anger. But there was truth, raw, undeniable truth. I saw the condition of my soul, not in the way I had convinced myself it was, but as it truly was. I had lived a life of convenience, of half-hearted faith, of missed chances to grow closer to God. I had treated him like an afterthought, something to turn to only when I needed help, but never something worth pursuing wholeheartedly. A deep sorrow welled up in me, not because I was being judged, but because I finally saw myself clearly. I had wasted time. I had taken his grace for granted. I had lived as if eternity was far off, when in reality, it had been pressing in on me all along. One of the angels stepped closer, and I felt a gentle but firm presence settle over me. Every choice matters, the voice echoed within me. Every moment shapes eternity. I understood then, more deeply than I ever had, that life wasn't just about surviving, about getting through each day with minimal effort. It was about purpose, about connection, about choosing to live in alignment with something greater than myself. And I had spent most of my days ignoring that truth, a glimpse beyond time. As the sorrow of my own life settled in my heart, the scene around me shifted. The memories of my past faded, replaced by something vast, something eternal. I was no longer standing in a place of judgment or reflection, but in the presence of something far greater than myself. Light, pure, radiant, and alive surrounded me. It wasn't harsh or blinding, but warm and inviting, like stepping into the embrace of someone who knows you completely and loves you anyway. The air shimmered with a peace I had never known, a stillness that wasn't empty, but full of meaning. There was no need for words here, because everything I needed to know was already understood. Before me stretched a landscape that defied earthly logic. There were no mountains or oceans, no cities or forests, yet it was more real than anything I had ever seen. Structures of light rose in the distance, glowing with purpose, humming with divine order. Beings moved among them, some like the angels who had guided me, others different, carrying an authority that was both awe-inspiring and comforting. I felt a pull toward it, a longing so deep it ached. This was home, not just a place, but a state of being. Here, there was no loneliness, no fear, no regret. Only unity, only purpose. I saw souls, countless souls, moving in harmony, each one contributing to something far beyond themselves. Some worked with light, shaping it into forms I couldn't comprehend. Others gathered in circles, speaking in tones that resonated with joy and wisdom. And all of them, every single one, carried a sense of belonging, as if they had finally arrived where they were meant to be. But then, as I turned, I saw something else. On the edges of this glorious realm, shadows lingered. Not darkness, not evil, but a quiet sorrow. Souls stood apart, watching, waiting. They weren't cast out, but they weren't fully present either. I understood, without needing to be told, that these were those who had lived without purpose, who had turned away from the path that led here. They weren't punished, but they weren't at peace either. They longed for what they had missed, for the closeness they had ignored in life. A deep ache formed in my chest. I had nearly been one of them. The angels remained beside me, silent now, allowing me to witness without interference. Through their presence, I felt the weight of something immense. The truth that this was not just a vision, but a reality. Heaven was not a myth, not a fairy tale. It was real, and it was waiting for everyone. And yet, not everyone would reach it. The understanding settled over me like a final, undeniable truth. God's mercy was boundless, His love unconditional, but His justice was real. We were given choices, and those choices shaped our eternity. There was no second chance after death. No opportunity to change our course once we stood before Him. Whatever we chose in this life determined where we would spend the next. I had been given a gift, a glimpse of what lay ahead, and I knew with absolute certainty that I could not return unchanged. The call back, as I stood on the threshold of eternity, caught between the beauty of heaven and the weight of my own choices, a new presence emerged. It was not the angels who had guided me thus far, nor the radiant beings moving in harmony around me. This presence was different, vast, infinite, and filled with both love and authority. I didn't see Him in the way I might see a person, but I knew without question that He was there. He did not speak in words, yet His message was clear. Your time is not yet finished. The moment those words reached me, a wave of emotion surged through me. Relief, gratitude, and an overwhelming sadness. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go back to the struggles, the distractions, the imperfections of this world.